We're doing an audible. We're going to do bylaws first. Good news is we have a quorum, so we can finally put this to bed. Before I start this presentation, I wanted to take a second and thank everyone who's been involved in this process. While revising the bylaws was one of our goals that we wanted to take care of early in our term, this is not something that's just been limited to this administration. I'd be remiss and I'd be a liar if I didn't point out the huge lift that Derek Ford and Deanna Marie Lewis started on this project before the election, before we even took office. So before I list everyone else, I want to definitely thank them for all the work and effort that they put into building a good foundation in order to take these across the finish line. I also want to thank David Retland, who was the stalwart member of the bylaws committee, just a great brain to be able to pull on, and the rest of the executive committee. I want to give a shout out to Jimmy Williams, Keith Hassan Towry, and Delia Halcyon, who were really strong thought partners in this project. And just anybody who took time to talk through the logistics of running the organization, such as Patricia Stamper, Ms. Dorothy Douglas, Tony Duggar, Eben Allen, and Deanie Freeman, and probably a bunch of other people that I'm missing. But I just wanted to take that time on the front end to thank everybody who was involved in making sure that this went well. Okay, so the bylaws. We understand that bylaws are something that enable us to serve you. So in order to make sure that this got through as clean as possible, we limited ourselves to making changes that would be clarifying or something that would make the organization more efficient, as opposed to an overall wholesale reorganization or restructuring of responsibilities and power. So some of the things that were important, especially because the bylaws were written or last revised so long ago, we wanted to make sure that we brought them up to the current standard. So one of the things that was really important to do was to eliminate passive voice. We consistently changed we changed it so that organization is listed for the Ward 7 Democrats. And whenever there's a reference to Ward 7, it's listed as Ward 7, which seems like a basic change, but it just makes them a lot easier and a lot clearer to read. We clarified the titles and duties of the elected and appointed officers. We itemized the 5 types of meetings: executive committee, general membership, which we're in right now, the annual convention, which is where we vote, which was held outside last year, and then an endorsement meeting, which is something that's been rather underutilized for the last few years. So we added some meat around the endorsement meeting just to make sure that we have the ability to set procedures around it so that we can actually exercise our power as the Ward 7 Democrats to make sure that citywide and local elected officials know that this is an organization that will be relevant to their efforts. We've made the term of office and timing of the transfer of responsibility explicit, just so that in the event there's any sort of change of responsibility, it is clear moving forward that for this time period, even though you are no longer the officer elect, you still have certain responsibilities. Part of those responsibilities being a responsibility to help your successor have a smooth transition in. We created a subsection which defined quorum for each meeting because it was sort of spread out throughout the bylaws. We replaced duplicative text with cross references, and we clarified the election procedure. Most of it is just making sure that the election committee actually has the authority explicitly stated to be able to make some of the decisions that are necessary in order to effectively administer the election. And a lot of these were suggestions that Keith came up with, so we just rolled them in. We also expanded the list of candidates that could be endorsed. There were some candidates that were just excluded from the list, which were an oversight because they affect Ward 7 and they affect us as the Democratic Party. Next slide, please. Okay, so this slide just shows the old structure of where the sections were and how they've been moved around. This is more of an organizational slide just so that you can look at it at a glance and see how things are set up. It's just an easier index to be able to find certain sections. It makes more of a sequential sense, and it'll be easier for a person who's not necessarily steeped in looking at the bylaws every day to be able to open it up and look at them and see where they are at a glance. Next slide, please. Okay, now some content changes were necessary in order to sort of preserve the bylaws over the long term so that we don't have to repeatedly update them. For example, one of the clauses that exists in the bylaws is that we were not previously allowed to exclude people for race, creed, color, or religion. Now, since that clause was inserted into our bylaws, the Human Rights Act in DC has vastly expanded. So even though this is also supposed to be a reflection of our values and what's important to us, we still weren't necessarily as inclusive as the law required us to be. So instead of creating an itemized list, which may go out of time as the Human Rights Act is updated, we just created an inclusive cross-reference to the Human Rights Act. And clarified that appointment and replacement authority is to be vested in the chair with the approval of the executive committee. There was a provision in there that previously was a little confusing because it allowed for the executive committee to temporarily remove the chairman if he was either incapable or unwilling to perform his duties, which was a lot like a backdoor impeachment. So we just clarified it. If the chairman is not capable of performing his duties, then we can temporarily remove him and replace him with either the first or the second vice chair. But if the chairman is unwilling to perform his duties, then we have to go through the impeachment procedure. We didn't want that sort of gray area to cloud the ability for people to perform. So that's been fixed. We explicitly allow virtual voting as determined by the election committee. So depending on the circumstances going into the election, if we have another COVID, if something happens and we need to do this remotely, we'll have the ability to give the election committee, in their judgment, will be able to make those decisions, subject, of course, to the approval of the executive committee and the membership, because they still have to send everything up through us. We've allowed the appointment of additional precinct representatives. One of the initiatives that we wanted to focus on in this term was to make sure that the body of people who are out on the ground doing canvassing and interacting with the voters had more manpower or woman power. So we've set up a system that will allow us to appoint additional precinct representatives to supplement the efforts of our elected precinct representatives. We've also provided a grace period for newly elected executives to develop an annual plan and budget. One of the things that happens at a transition is you're trying to grab a hold of a bunch of different records, you're trying to get everything on board, you're learning where the chairs are, as it were. So in order to make sure that we were able to comply with that time period as provided in the bylaws, the first budget that a new executive is presenting, they are able to take 60 days in order to do it, as opposed to the 30 days. And then finally, we've allowed meeting notice through internet site or social media. The previous iteration of the bylaws, again, hadn't been updated in more than a decade, and it's a reflection of the times in which they existed. So notice by email, notice by social media, notice by general publication, it just candidly hadn't been contemplated yet because those products weren't particularly widespread. So we wanted to make sure that we are able to include these additional methods of outreach and bring us up to the 21st century. Okay, next slide, please. Okay, and just to sort of let you guys know what we've been doing, because again, we are very clear that bylaws are not a bread and butter issue. We know that everybody has seriously important things that they're dealing with. So in order to make sure that these bylaws and the revision to the bylaws were greatly accessible or easily accessible, these are the outreach methods that we use to make sure that we were soliciting feedback in as aggressively a model as possible. So we made a publicly accessible feedback form, which had some limited interactions. We did a direct email of the draft bylaws to the executive committee. The drafts were emailed out to the general body. We had 2 bylaw committee open houses and presentations where I did some variation of this presentation. The first one was July 10th, and the last one was the day before my birthday, September 8th. So we've been sort of pushing it out there to make sure that people know what's happening and that they're aware that it's occurring. So we really wanted to make sure that if anybody had any questions, they were able to reach out to me directly. They were able to reach out to Wendell or any member of the executive team just to make sure that the feedback loop was present. So I think we've done a really good job of making sure that something that's usually pretty arcane and done behind the scenes was a public facing experience. So I'm really proud of the work that everybody has put into this, and I'm really proud of the product that we've put together. And I think it'll set the tone for us to be able to operate more effectively as an organization moving forward and better serve you. Next slide, please. Okay, so that concludes my presentation, and I wanted to open up the floor to any questions. If anybody has any questions about the bylaws or the process or the timing or anything, please feel free to ask them. Tiffany, I'm sorry, I can't see everybody, so I'm deferring to you to see if anybody is raising a question.
I'm looking to see if there are any hands raised. At this time, I don't see any. Maybe if we tell, someone's hand is raised.
Okay.
I can't.
Oh, it's Mr. Retling. Go ahead.
Okay.
Hold on, let me.
I'd just like to commend Kareem on the great job he did to put this together and make sure that it was socialized throughout the Ward 7 Dems. He put a lot of work in, and this is the foundation of the Ward 7 Dems going forward. I just want to just say kudos to him and the hard work that he put in to make this happen.
Thank you, sir. Okay. It looks like we don't have any additional questions. So with all questions addressed and in light of the prior presentation and outreach efforts, I move that the Ward 7 Democrats adopt the bylaws as amended by acclamation.
It has been moved that the bylaws.
Second that motion. Mr. Chair, I second that motion.
Okay.
Thank you.
But there you have it. It has been moved and properly second. Is there any discussion on the motion? Okay, hearing no discussion. This is a vote of the full membership. All in favor, and Tiffany or Lawrence rather, please unmute everyone. And you can either vote yay or nay.
They are able to unmute. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All against, say nay. The ayes have it.
Congratulations. We have our new set of bylaws. So thank you again, Kareem, for all your hard work, as well as all of the residents who participated in this effort. Also want to commend the previous administration for putting the infrastructure in place and giving us a blueprint to follow. I'm pleased. So I'll stop there. I see that we have our council member who joined the call. So council member, if you're ready, my friend, we're going to allow you to give an update and share with the Ward 7 Dems, as well as the residents across Ward 7, what you've been working on since we've all came together collectively. You there, council member?
Am I unmuted now?
You are unmuted, my friend.
Okay, thank you very much. I appreciate it. And I just want to say thank you to you, Wendell, and to the members of Ward 7 Dems. And congratulations on the work done on the bylaws. That isn't the most sexy, experience in the world, but it is necessary to be able to make the organization run the way that it should. So what I'll try to do is talk a little bit about what we've done in recent past, and then I'll try to answer any questions that you all may have. So should we just go ahead, Wendell?
Yeah, we just gonna go ahead, council member. Before you get into your presentation, right? I'm gonna give you a couple extra minutes. Did you get some rest? I saw you were out partying that. We kind of bumped past last night. Did you get some rest from the auto night event?
Absolutely. It was a great event last night, and I saw lots of you all out there.
Yes, sir.
And I want to thank you all for being out there to be a part of what we've been doing with the Pennsylvania Avenue effort. There was just lots of people out there tonight, and it was a fun event. And so I was glad to be there. And,
yes, sir.
I'm glad the rest of you who were there, in fact, took the opportunity to do so. So great band out there. It was just a fun time. So
good, council member.
Thank you so much, Wendell. I appreciate it.
Yes, sir. Okay. Well, you can go ahead and get started.
Okay. Anyway, I want to thank you all for joining me this morning and giving me another opportunity to share information on what we're doing in the District of Columbia. I want to talk a little bit about redistricting, which is a process that takes place every 10 years. And we've done a lot of work also on our managed care contracts for Medicaid in the District of Columbia, which has major implications for the people of Ward 7. And I want to talk a little bit about the budget also. I'm going to use a term that's maybe a little bit hyperbole, but that's okay. Really, this budget has been nothing short of miraculous, in my opinion. And I'm just delighted about what we've been able to do. Just to summarize some of the elements of it, we've got millions and millions of dollars. I know that sounds like a little bit of exaggeration, but it really isn't. We've got a new hospital that's coming that will serve Ward 7 and Ward 8. There'll be well over 300 and some odd $1 million that will be available to address this. We also got something I've worked on for quite some time, and that is early childhood education. When I became the chair and then mayor for the District of Columbia, we were able to put in place universal pre-kindergarten. And what I'm really excited about is we were able to get through tax increases, we were able to get hundreds of millions of dollars additional that will go into place in this fiscal year coming up. We've got a new Deanwood library, which is really exciting. We got a small area plan, which is going to put a lot of money in place for how we deal with Deanwood. We also got a brand new streetcar program, which we've been working on for some time. I've been working on it and others have been working on it. And we're really excited about the new streetcar program that is coming to Ward 7. We have a new headquarters for the Department of General Services in the District of Columbia. We have what I really think is very exciting, and that is 3 new grocery stores. We really have had a very difficult time, and it's just amazing what we're getting now. We worked with some of the folks in Ward 7, some of our ANCs. We worked with them, and we got 200, lots of money, let's put it that way. Renovations for the Jackie Robinson baseball field, which is right next to the baseball academy, which we did too. I'm glad that we did that for Ward 7. Now we've done the baseball, the Jackie Robinson baseball field. It's going to include new lights, it's going to include new dugouts. And also, some of you, of course, will recall we had a crash with the bridge on 295. That's going to cost probably $25 million. And working with the mayor, we've been able to get the dollars that are necessary to be able to get that accomplished. And we're very, very excited about that. So let me say a couple of words about redistricting, and then we'll go on from there. And I've talked to Wendell about this too. We're working to make sure that the Ward 7 Dems will have a role in that. And I know David Retland, who's on the call, is interested in this as well. And we'd like to work with you guys to see how we can make sure that we include the Ward 7 Dems in particular. At the beginning of September, the council launched its, I guess I'll call it once every 10 years redistricting process. Normally, the 10-year process begins in April of the previous year, but a 5-month delay occurred, and so now we're just really getting started, and we're happy about the fact that this is going to take place. Phil Mendelson, the chair of the council, appointed a subcommittee to direct the council's redistricting work, and consists of 3 at-large members. Elissa Silverman is the chair. There are 2 chairs, 2 additional chairs on the subcommittee. That includes Anita Bonds, who I've worked with for a very long time, and then Christina Henderson, who is one of the newer council members on the council. They're using the information from the 2020 census, and using that information, the subcommittee will make recommendations to the full council, and it will result in redrawing the district's boundaries to ensure that we have a balanced ward population distribution for the entire council of the District of Columbia. The subcommittee, along with ward-specific task forces, will also make a number of recommendations on redrawing the not only the council boundaries itself, but also the Advisory Neighborhood Commission. So those of you who are ANCs or involved in one way or the other, I invite you to work with Wendell, work with me, and others who are going to be involved in this process to try to make sure that we have the most balanced and fair process we possibly can have in Ward 7. There are timelines that are associated with this, and those who want more detailed information about the process, just let me or others know, and we'll try to make sure that you get the information that you need. One of the interesting dilemmas that we've had is around the managed care contracts, and that's been an interesting process. I frankly am deeply concerned about the recent developments that have worked to, and unfortunately, destabilize, I think, the district's managed care program. First and foremost, the goal is to ensure that DC residents have equitable, fair, equal access to high quality healthcare services. That's a part of what our hospital is about also, making sure that we have fair and equal and available services for people for healthcare in Ward 7 especially. And that includes, of course, managed care, which is Medicaid supported. And so we're working hard to try to make sure that we have the most fair services that are available to people through the Medicaid program. And we will be happy, Wendell, if you want me to come back at some point to talk in more detail about those. We just had some interesting developments with that over the last couple of days that will allow us to work with managed care, with Medicaid, and with Wayne Turnage, who is the deputy mayor now, who actually I hired as the head of the Medicaid program in the District of Columbia. We had a process that actually wound up in almost, I won't say a tie vote, but pretty close to it. We had a 7-60 vote, and we were not happy with the fact that the council declined to support the legislation that we were supporting from the executive to be able to get this done. But we've now had some steps forward that have moved us to where we are at this point. The negotiations have continued on managed care. And just to give you numbers, there are 250,000 people who are affected in Ward 7 and Ward 8 by the managed care program. So it is a hugely important issue that we're dealing with. And we're gonna, do the best we possibly can. It will include work by MedStar, which you all are familiar with, I'm sure, and also the rehabilitation facilities that people need, those services, and the managed care operations that people desperately need in order to get the services that they need. I have called on the mayor and and those working with her to propose a solution that retains access to medical MedStar healthcare services for district residents, and also the Alliance, which some of you all are familiar with. The idea was to make sure those services continue to be available two people for the 250,000 people who I mentioned who are part of our public insurance system in the District of Columbia. Now back to this budget, for example, I'm just very excited about it. I just really am. We got things from this budget that we just didn't think we were going to get. And I'll be happy to answer any questions about those services, those programs, if you wish. To meet the needs of child and family-based services, we increased funding for birth to 3, which I mentioned earlier. And we were able to add $416,000 in the budget to be able to make some of this happen. We also added $300,000 to the birth to 3 Healthy Steps program, which some of you may be familiar with. And if you're not, I'll be happy to speak to that in more detail if you wish. These are evidence-based programs, and they will add services towards 5, 7, and 8 in the District of Columbia, areas where these services have never existed before, and will make services available to our babies and our toddlers in the District of Columbia. We also were able to fully fund pay equity. And what the heck is pay equity, right? Well, pay equity is the people who work in our early childhood education program just don't make very much money. And this is going to add substantially to the dollars that they have available to them. And they will get significant pay raises during this coming fiscal year, which of course begins on October 1st. It's really right around the corner. So this is going to be an exciting experience for folks. We will be able to add, it's amazing how much money we're adding through these tax increases. $93 million during this first fiscal year, $93.9 million. And then over a full year, which will begin, of course, in this next fiscal year, it'll add another total of $72.9 million, which is an amazingly large sum of money. And what a great experience this is going to be for so many of our people who just don't make much money doing this. They are dedicated folks, they work hard, and they're very committed to the work that they do. So that's very exciting when you talk about the additional dollars that are going to be available to people who work in early childhood education. We've also added some services for what's called postpartum service coverage. That will extend the postpartum services that we have available in the District of Columbia, especially in Ward 7 and areas on the east end of the city. We got additional reallocation of dollars, $544,000 that will be administered through the Department of Health, their finance, which will eliminate the problems that we've had with providing funding in that area. We also are creating, for the first time ever, ladies and gentlemen, we're creating a comprehensive healthcare system on the east end of the city. And we're going to have the dollars being invested will be $365.8 million in this new system. It will include not only the new hospital, a new ambulatory care center, and also 2 urgent care centers. And there may be 3. I think there'll be a 3rd in Ward 7, and we'll know in early October exactly if there's going to be a 3rd, which we think it will be. So we'll have, never having had an urgent care center in either Ward 7 or Ward 8 of the city, we're going to possibly have 3 at that stage. We'll have the 2 urgent care centers that I mentioned that will open, one in Ward 8, one will open in 2021. And then in Ward 7, we'll have the 2 that I mentioned that'll be in 2022. So it's really right around the corner. The new hospital is going to be, we'll have the groundbreaking on that in early 2022. And people are already, the architects have been selected. The work has already been selected. There's work that's already been done to build a new garage to make available to people to use those services. So that's going to be a phenomenal step forward. And I know I'm using the same word again, but I'm absolutely terribly excited about that. We also are adding additional school nurses. We've had a dearth of school nurses available, and we now are going to get to the point where we have on-site nurses available in all of our schools, all of our DC public schools, and all of our charter schools, which again will be an exciting step forward. We also added $1.8 million, $1,872,000 that will fully fund school-based mental health programs as well, which is a major step forward. We've not had these kinds of services available to any of our children at all in the city. Let me just add to some work on Ward 7 priorities. Some of you all are probably aware that 75% of the district's food deserts are located in wards 7 and 8 in the District of Columbia. That is overwhelming. And we now are going to have the dollars available to us to build, as I mentioned, 3 new grocery stores. There's one that's going to be in, there's a new grocery store being built, Lidl is being built in Skyland. There's going to be an event to kick that process off in about a week. So I would invite you all to come out and be a part of that. It's going to be a wonderful step forward, and we're very excited about that. So there'll be 3 new grocery stores, and one of them will get $23.6 million of investment so that we get kind of grocery stores we want to have in Ward 7 in particular. 2 in Skyland, 1 in Northeast Heights, which is right off Minnesota Avenue, and then of course the additional areas that I mentioned. We've got $2.3 million being invested in sports fields. I mentioned earlier, right next to the academy that we built, the baseball academy. We got the Jackie Robinson Field, which is going to get a huge investment. In fact, I was talking to Delano Hunter, and we were both not laughing about it, but we were excited about the fact that this is going to happen very early in the fiscal year, and will be available to our children very early in this fiscal year. We also have added $200,000 restoring the water connection in Kingman Park down in the Rosedale area of Ward 7. It means that there will be some services that are available to people in Kingman Park that otherwise would not have been. We also gotten $250,000 for a Deanwood small area plan in Deanwood. This will update what was was done back in 2008, a small area plan, and this will bring services to the area, to Deanwood. They just have not been there here before. And in addition to that, we've got a $24 million investment, and we are happy to work with the mayor on this. $24 million to modernize the 7,300 square foot Deanwood Library, and that's going to, it's a It'll be a 20,000 square foot new library in Deanwood, which we are happy about. I'm very happy about the work that we've got going now in Kenilworth. The new footbridge, that accident that you all may recall. A truck ran into the right on Polk Street, right off of 295, which collapsed, and that's going to be completely replaced. And what I'm happy about is there were no injuries involved in that situation at all. And of course, thank God, no lives that were lost. One other area I'll mention is an exciting thing for me. I went to Portland, Oregon, when I was mayor, to look at what they do with the streetcar there, and what a great program they have. And we've got some folks that we've been working with, some advocates who are very involved with this, and we've got the money now available for the streetcar program, as well as additional infrastructure investments for the viaduct, as it used to be called, at the bridge, the Whitlock Bridge. It's going to be very special.
Council member,
Yes, sir.
my guy, you know I hate to interrupt you. Just
Well, I'm almost
couple
finished,
minutes.
so.
I was gonna say you got a couple more minutes, so we're gonna keep
Okay, I'm gonna
rolling.
wind it down, okay? I'm gonna wind it down. Anyway, we got the new grocery stores that I mentioned. I'm gonna go over those again. And we've been conducting, along with Ebony Rose Thompson, who is our school board member, we've been conducting school visits. We were together over at one of the schools on just a couple days ago. And we'll be visiting Woodson and some other schools as well. And that, Wendell, is about it, okay? And I'll be happy to answer any questions that anybody may have.
Thank you so much, Council Member, for that robust breakdown on all the work that you and your office have been doing during the budget cycle and in the course of the summer. We talk quite frequently, so I don't have any questions per se, but I do want to open the floor for to take questions from the audience. We're gonna go with 3 questions, Council Member, and then we're going to wrap this segment up. So if we can have our Sergeant at Arms, Miss Tiffany Brown, read the questions that's in the chat, that will be wonderful.
We don't have any questions in the chat, but Rebecca Morris has her hand up, followed by David Redland.
Okay.
It was nice to see you last night too, Tiffany. Thank you so much.
It was good to see you too, Council Member.
Great. So we can start off with Commissioner Morris. Commissioner Morris, if we can unmute Commissioner Morris, and then you can ask your question, Commissioner.
Hey, how are you doing? I have a question about the school nurses. Will you have allow, or will you make it available for the school nurses to be available for aftercare and after school? Or can you possibly push that? And my other quick question was for evictions. Some evictions have started now. Will you be pushing to stop evictions even if someone had applied for stay DC and haven't received the money just yet?
Yeah, that is a great question, Rebecca. I appreciate that very much. And yes, we are working. We are working to try to slow down, if not stop, those evictions. Stay DC, of course, has been an opportunity for people to have support from our city to be able to address the additional dollars that people need in order to to stay. No pun intended, but to stay where they are. So yes, we will be working on that, and I'll be happy with you, Rebecca, and also with the Ward 7 Dems to work on additional efforts that we need to make available. With respect to the nurses, this will be the first time that we've actually had nurses in place to this extent. We've been back and forth, debating back and forth, but we now have the dollars that are available for us to be able to support our nurses across the city and across Ward 7 in particular. So yes, there will be opportunities that have not been there before, and I really appreciate the question. So thank you, Rebecca, so much for that question, and we'll be happy to work with you and the ANCs as well to try to continue to address what is an important problem for us.
Okay. Thank you, Councilmember. I'm sorry, Mr. Chairman.
No, Sergeant at Arms, it is your call.
Okay, so then Mr. Redland has a question. Then after that, Mr. Curley, Jimmy Curley, and then those are our 3 questions.
Okay. Mr. Redland, how are you, sir?
Good. How about yourself?
I'm fine, David. How are you?
Always good to see you. So
Yes,
I just
sir.
want to say thank you for your unwavering support for Art All Night. It was a tremendous success. I had a chance to get around the Ward 7 and see some old faces and new faces, and even hang out with Tiffany at a club that people were like, millennials, and we were out there. So just thank you for your support. Thank you for DSLBD support in kicking off our first annual All Night in Ward 7. Second thing, I just want to say thank you for your support for not only our pre-K, but our seniors. Your unwavering support for the senior population is, again, we greatly appreciate it. So my question is, can you just share a little bit about the work that you're doing on the Joy Evans, I think, Therapeutic Center?
Yes.
And that's important because a lot of people don't know what that therapeutic center does and its relationship, not only to Ward 7, but the District of Columbia.
Well, David, I appreciate you asking that question, and I appreciate your involvement. The Joy Evans Therapeutic Recreation Center is being completely rebuilt. I probably should have mentioned that in terms of the additional dollars that we're bringing to Ward 7. And you don't live that far from there, so I know you're very familiar with it, and I know you're involved with the work that's being done now to rebuild. That there's tens of millions of dollars being invested in the Therapeutic Recreation Center. For those who don't know, Joy Evans was a person with a disability. She spent much of her life at a place called Forest Haven, which not everybody is familiar with, and maybe that's a good thing that they're not that familiar with. But we've had you, David, have been involved with it, which I appreciate. We've had Joy Evans' sister has been involved in it, and we expect it to be finished. It'll be finished in early 22, and it's going to add new swimming pool. It's going to add a bunch of new services and a brand new facility that is being built right there off of Minnesota Avenue. I'm glad you asked about it, and it's going to provide services not only to people with disabilities, but to so many of our seniors who need those services, and who, frankly, people who ask me a lot, like you do, about what's going to happen with that. Well, what's happening is we're putting a lot of money into it, and it's going to be a great facility that we're happy about. So, David, thank you for asking that question and for your involvement also in helping us to get to the next place with the Joy Evans Center.
All right, thank you, Mr. Curley. It's your turn. If you unmute yourself. You're muted, sir. You're still muted.
Feels like me. I do that. I make that mistake all the time.
Okay.
Okay, you just muted yourself back. Let's see if we can get you back.
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Oh, okay.
I can. Yeah. Thank you.
Yeah, Councilman. I appreciate those efforts in the senior. That's why I want to kind of piggyback on some of that, because over here at the Capitol Gateway, we have a problem with safety for our seniors, because on 58th Street and all the surrounding streets around us have speed humps, but on 58th Street, there's no traffic calming, and we have seniors in wheelchairs and different things like that trying to cross. And from East Capitol Street to Natty Helen Burroughs, is a raceway on 58th Street. There seems to be no end to the amount of traffic that comes straight through the stop signs, but all the surrounding streets have the humps. And we're just trying to figure out why with the senior building here, with people that have some disabilities, that we can't get some sort of traffic calming to stop these people from running up and down 58th Street.
Well, that's a great question. I'm very familiar with the senior building over there as well, and actually know a lot of the people in that senior building. And
yes,
what we can do, Mr. Curley, if this will work, you know, we have a new commander. The commander for the 6th district is retiring, and we're going to have a new commander coming on board really over the next 2 to 3 weeks. And I've asked her if she would do a presentation to our leadership council about things that are important to folks in Ward 7. And certainly what you talked about is very important to people. So let's try to work to get the new commander of the 6th district involved right from the very beginning with the traffic problem over there. I'm very familiar with that problem, very familiar with the building, very familiar with so many of the people who live in that building. And it can be a dangerous experience, as you know, trying to walk across there. So let's work on trying to get the new commander involved in this right from the very beginning, and work with you, work with Wendell, and work with the Ward 7 Dems to try to make this happen.
Okay, I appreciate that. Thank you, sir.
You're welcome.
Thank you, Mr. Jimmy. And thank you again, council member, for joining us this morning. Like as always, you're always welcome. You were a former chair. So anytime you need to get on our agenda, do not hesitate to reach out to us, and we will gladly make accommodations to make room.
Thank you. Well, and I'll keep you informed, of course, Wendell, and that is about the groundbreaking for the new hospital and the new healthcare services that we're going to be doing. So I hope you will come and represent the Ward 7 Dems at that.
I'll be on front and center. Just make sure you write my name in the chair. All right, guys. So we're going to move right along. Councilmember, are you good to go?
I am, and thank you for having me out there last night. I thoroughly enjoyed it, and thank you so much, Wendell. And you were a great host, along with Letitia and others, who helped with that event on. It was terrific.
Absolutely. Well, thank you so much, Councilmember. So, guys, I just heard from the mayor's office that unfortunately she's been drawn away due to an emergency, and she will have to reschedule her appearance. We do have her chief of staff and the deputy mayor, Mr. Falchicchio, on the line. So in the event that, John, you're more than welcome to either two things. You're more than welcome to make any remarks, or we can ask maybe two questions, but, we can reschedule the mayor's attendance at the meeting. I kind of defer to you, sir.
No, we'd love to find the time, and I think if appropriate too, I'd love to try to work with you to see if we could maybe do it in person, which would be fun to see everybody again. As I look at you all now, everybody looks like a bunch of squares, and I know that case. So we'd love to find the time. But Wendell, we do have some of our directors on. I probably can't name them all right now because I see them scattered around the screen, but if you or even the council member have a question, happy to try to take those now. But let's circle back to reschedule that, hopefully in-person get-together sometime soon. So, Mr. Chair, I'll turn it back to you.
Council member, I know this isn't traditional, but we're going to tag team this, okay? I'm going to ask one question and the council member can ask another question. I think in total, we'll both ask two questions apiece. So we'll save the good questions for the mayor, okay? Is that okay with you, Deputy Mayor?
Yeah, it sounds to me.
Okay, well, the first,
And John, thank you for the work that you've done, working with the mayor and others on the new DGS headquarters.
Yes.
You were at the groundbreaking, and we're really excited about what's going to happen there. So thank you for the work that you've done, John. I appreciate it.
And I do see Director Anderson, who I know is very excited about the new headquarters. I was by there last night when I was traveling around, going to the Art All Night events, but it looked like they were making good progress. And I'll ask Director Anderson just to maybe give a brief update.
Director, you're on mute. Lawrence, if we can okay.
I got it. My apologies. And good morning, everyone. Hello, council member, deputy mayor, and the Ward 7 Gems. We are absolutely excited about the new DGS headquarters, which will be located on Minnesota and Benning Roads Northeast. The project is currently under construction with the completion date of, I believe it's FY23 or calendar year 23, and I believe that is the latter part of the year. And the project is well underway, and so we're just excited about it. And also want to point out that was one of the first leases we did over east of the river under the mayor's new order of looking at underserved communities and try to spur economic development in those communities. And this is one of our projects that that we were able to honor her commitment. So very happy to do so.
Hey, Chairman, if I jump in just for Director Anderson, how many people will work there each day too?
Approximately 400 each day.
Love it. I love it.
And there's a retail component to it as well. So happy to bring that to the community.
Great. Thank you so much, Director, for that update. Okay. Well, I guess I'll go. Council member.
No, I'm just going to say, Keith, I want to thank you also for the rapid response that you made on Burrville. That's a school that Ebony Rose Thompson and I were at just a couple of days ago. And you responded quickly on the situation, and sounds like the work that's needed over there is going to get done very quickly.
Yes, I did communicate that to the team. I'm pleased to hear that they were able to respond. I think that was yesterday. And once I get more updates, I'll be happy to inform your office. I also overheard comments about the Therapeutic Recreation Center.
Yes.
And that is going to be a very wonderful investment that the mayor is making in Ward 7. Very good purpose. I believe we have selected the contractor for that project, and we're looking to get started in FY22.
Thank you for that.
Thank you. Thanks again, Director Anderson. I guess I'll start with my first question. Considering the low vaccination rate in Ward 7, our children that are a particularly high risk of infections by COVID-19, under what circumstances would your administration reconsider in-person learning? And what steps is your administration taking to increase vaccination rates in Ward 7?
Let me see if we have anyone from our schools team or DC Health. If not, I could jump in on it. So, is Deputy Mayor Kine on? Or someone from his office?
I see that
I see that in the chat.
Okay.
And I don't know if you're on, you might be muted. And they say when you're muted and you speak, an angel gets their wings. So, but let me jump in. And if there is somebody from DME on, I'll happy to yield the floor to you. But just in terms of in-person learning, so DC Health and OSSE, which is the Office of the State Superintendent for Education, as well as the Deputy Mayor for Education, worked throughout the spring and the summer, really to hone in on how we would reopen schools again come late summer 2021. And so what they wanted to do was make sure for the 2021-2022 school season that they were able to have in-person learning 5 days a week. Really important because even the CDC guidance shows you that that the best place for students to learn is in the classroom. And the reason for that is not just to understand the subject matter that they're learning, but the social and emotional learning that can only happen in person. So that's how we've gone forward. We also knew that we had to re-examine the protocols based on the science. And the science shows that when there is a positive case, that we have to be really precise about who that positive case has had close contact with. And there's a new protocol this year that allows for the contact tracers to understand who exactly that positive case was in close contact with, and then really isolate those individuals. So what that allows us to do then is not to shut down entire classrooms unless that's what the contact tracers say is appropriate following the science. And it allows us to keep in-person learning. So none of us know what's ahead with this virus. And that's why the second part of your question is so important. Mayor Bowser launched what we call the DC COVID-19 Community Corps. That is actually a combination of both volunteer activations as well as a staff that works around or every day of the week around the city to try to really hone in on populations that have not yet been vaccinated. And they go door to door. They're in high traffic areas at events like Art All Night last night. I saw them out handing out information and really working with community organizations like, as an example, Marshall Heights Community Development Organization is one of our host organizations for the COVID-19 Community Corps. So what we really want to do is make sure that neighbor to neighbor, we're spreading the message of how important vaccination is. Now, I won't try to navigate all the news that's been coming out about boosters, but DC Health is going to get out more information, kind of understanding what the FDA and CDC have said, and boosters are going to be really important. But right now, the way that we're really going to get beyond the virus is we're going to make sure that those who haven't been vaccinated are vaccinated. And those conversations have to happen neighbor to neighbor, and also to make sure that people get back to their doctor, because a lot of people have put off their health care, just their regular checkups. And when they get back to their doctor, I know that their doctor is going to tell them that the best thing to do, the best way to protect themselves from the virus is to get vaccinated. So we're committed to keep making progress on getting more people vaccinated, and we're open to ideas as well.
I appreciate that response, Deputy Mayor. Council member, we playing tennis. It's your go.
What was what is the question?
Did you want to ask a question?
No, I was listening to John, and I appreciate the response that he gave.
Okay.
Very thorough. Yeah.
Okay. Good. Then I'll just ask 2 more questions, and then I do appreciate folks' flexibility for joining the call, but we're gonna save the good questions for the mayor, Deputy Mayor. So my next question would be, what is the administration's vision to increase public safety in Ward 7? What is your administration doing to improve safety for everyday residents? And what do you think residents can do to help? That was a long question.
Sounds like he's
Sorry.
muted.
Yeah, now, see, I told you, it happens. I've seen if anybody from our public safety team is on right now. And before so let me go ahead and jump in on that. I think, obviously, this is the most important issue for all of us. The safety of our residents, of our neighbors, is really important. It's really the most important job that the mayor has. So what we want to do is make sure that we're doing everything we can. There's the police response, there's the community prevention, and the community outreach and engagement. So for the police response, I know I heard the council member talking about there's going to be a new leader in the 6th district, MPD 6th district. And so we'll make sure that they're connected to the community and that you all have a chance to really, say what's important to you. I think right now it's important that MPD is very visible. We know that just across the country in 2020, sadly, homicides were up 29% across the country. In DC, they were up 19%. Those numbers are just unacceptable. And so what we want to do is make sure that the police have all the tools that they need in order to keep us safe. And then this is something too that I know the council member knows, that he and his colleagues on the council have helped us put really historic, unprecedented investments into prevention. The mayor has launched the Building Blocks DC initiative, which really hones in on specific blocks and really tries to bring all the services of the government to those blocks. And then finally, Wendell, or Chairman, I should say, it's really important that everybody does continue to really, I know sometimes it seems like when you call 311, it doesn't get a response. That's really we want to make sure that's rare. And what we want you to do is continue to use 311 and if you have to, 911, but 311 to really let us know those issues that help impact the quality of life in the community. And a lot of those kind of also influence public safety. So keep using 311. We'll keep working to get through the requests that we get, but we need community to do that. And then also, I would make sure that everybody's aware of and takes advantage of the private security camera rebate program that we have. If you put those security cameras on your home, then we will reimburse you for it. And the great thing about that is there's a deterrent value, but there's also, it helps law enforcement in the unfortunate incidents when there when something does occur. So Wendell, I'll turn back to you.
I appreciate that, Deputy Mayor. I would say my boss, but Deputy Mayor, I'll just wrap this up with one final question for you and members of the team. What is your vision for the future of education in Ward 7? What steps are being taken to increase investments in areas such as immersion or language immersion, technical training, and as our council member likes to refer to a lot as vocational training?
And I think actually, I see actually Chief Wright on, so I want to make sure, sorry, I didn't see you there before. Can you hear us okay? Oh, we have to unmute him. I think that's,
okay.
There we go.
All right, thank you, Deputy Mayor. I'm sorry, I was muted. I wasn't.
Oh, no problem. I'm sorry. On the previous question on public safety.
Well, you did a good job. You did a great job. Good morning, everybody. I think other than what the Deputy Mayor has added, I want to say two things, and then I also wanted to give the Commander, Commander Beebles, who I've heard the councilman talk about, opportunity to weigh in as well. But I think high points, we just concluded our summer crime initiative, which was a tremendous success. I agree with the Deputy Mayor that one murder is one murder too many. We're at about 154 versus 138. So we're experiencing some of the same trends that the nation is experiencing. The summer crime initiative, we ended up with about a 33% decrease in homicides, and then all across the board in our robberies and ADWs. Specifically in Ward 7, it was very successful in the Greenway area, led by Captain Branch. So one of the things that I know Chief Conti is in talks about with the mayor is possibly extending that kind of extensive coverage for Ward 7 so that we can sort of blanket it, if you will, and bolster our personnel and presence to close out the fall, which we know as October, November, and December approaches tend to be a more violent uptick. And so we're already at work on that, and hopefully we'll hear from Chief Conti very soon on that. And the only other thing that I'll say, because I wanted to have the commander to jump in, she is retiring, and she's served 28 years. I think her last day is October, but she's still in the seat, and she's still fighting crime. And I'll let her, Mr. Chairman, if you might unmute her, talk more specifically about her plan for the coming days relative to public safety.
Thank you so much, Chief Wright. Commander Habibullah, my friend, how you doing?
Well, good morning. So I'm listening to your questions. One of the things that I kind of break up the Ward 7, the 6th district is into 3 ways. One is crime, one is community service, and one is traffic. Because traffic and crime in Ward 7, as you all know, traffic is just as important as crime. And so, in listening to all of my community members, I really try to attack the actions where you all want me to go, as well as the crime trends that are occurring. Currently, I can say this, I am 17%, I have a 17% decrease in crime for overall year. So I'm really happy where we are. Of course, there's some issues that happens as it relates to gun violence. As you all know, one of the questions I think you asked is what you all can do to assist MPD with public safety. Keep your eye on the gun violence. Keep your eye on the number of guns that's coming into the city, and what you all can do as residents to urge your council members to try to make some actionable things that would stop some of the gun violence and some of the guns that come into the city. Because I'm telling you, it's getting worse. It's getting worse. The ghost guns, the guns that people are getting from all around the country and utilizing for violent crime, there's no end. So that's one of the things that you all can do. When they announced the new commander of the 6th district, of course, I encourage you all to do what you did with me, which is you kind of trained me, right? You taught me what you all wanted me to do, and I did it. And so that's what I would encourage you all to do, is to stay in the loop. Stay encouraged, stay talking to that person, and working together as a group. This is not just the police and the community. We have to work together to come up with a solution and plans of action so that we can make our neighborhoods safer.
Thank you so much, Commander, for that report. We're going to miss you. I have your number, your personal number. You're not too far away. Nonetheless, thank you so much for the public safety team for giving that report out. We'll go into, I'll repeat my prior question, and then we're going to take one final question from Mr. Ratlin, and then we're going to conclude this portion of the agenda. So my question again was, what is your vision for the future of education in Ward 7? What steps are being taken to increase investments in areas such as language immersion, technical training, and like I said initially, as our council member, I like to use the term vocational training?
Yes. So I'd love to start off a little bit, but then I see Director Morris Hughes is with us, so I'd love to have her add, because I know there are a lot of new investments in FY22, and you'll hear us talk about FY22. You all follow us closely. You know that that starts on October 1st. So we're excited that we get to really kick off new initiatives October 1st and the weeks and the months that follow. So, but we've made extraordinary investments in public education in the city, and that is a we that includes everybody on this call, because really there are 2 things that are probably most important to make sure that the city continues to succeed. And Wendell, you'll probably laugh that I don't say affordable housing, although that's the one that's most important to me. But for the city as a whole, I think public safety continuing to improve, and public education, because we really need to make sure that generations that come behind us are prepared for what's ahead of us. And so those investments will continue to make. I think what's important that we continue to look at is how we keep our public education facilities. So Director Anderson is on the call with us. We spend a lot to build brand new schools. We also need to make sure that we spend the money and invest the money to keep them up. Nobody buys a new car and then never gets the oil change. And we shouldn't do that with our schools. But I do want to turn to Director Morris Hughes to talk about some of the new initiatives coming up in this new budget. And do we have to unmute you, Director? Yeah, we have to unmute the Director. Unique Morris Hughes, who seems to be sitting in Ward 7 at DOES headquarters. Am I guessing right?
How can I participate in a Ward 7 meeting without being here in Ward 7? So I am on Minnesota Avenue this morning. And so once DGS joins us, we'll be 2 DC government agencies that are headquartered actually on the same street of 1 block separating us. But Deputy Mayor, I was going to call you Chief of Staff, but Deputy Mayor Pacheco, one of the biggest highlights is the DC Infrastructure Academy. And so really the DC Infrastructure Academy is, I like to think, the premier vocational training institute that the District of Columbia has to offer. That's where you will find training in the trades. So everything from solar, entry-level training needed for construction jobs, all of the utilities, and we've added DC water because water is infrastructure. At least I believe that as well. But we are really the premier vocational training institute here in the District of Columbia. We're really excited about what's going to be taking place and taking shape at Spingarn, where we will move the majority of our operations to Spingarn, and we'll still keep a footprint at another location in Ward 8. But at Spingarn, we're also going to have an opportunity to partner with DC Public Schools and OSSI to offer CTE courses. So their young people enrolled at DC Public Schools will have an opportunity to attend vocational training at DCIA. So that's really our first and biggest investment. Additionally, with Project Empowerment and apprenticeship, we also have substantial investments where we are expanding the number of people we'll be serving, both in Project Empowerment and in apprenticeship. The reason why apprenticeship, let me just say really briefly about apprenticeship is so important is because it's literally an opportunity to work and earn a wage and learn at the same time. And so often I hear people say development and construction is happening in their communities, but not with them, and as part of them being part of the community. Well, this is a real tangible opportunity to work in a trade and help build and uplift a community that folks work in. So those are just a few of our most prominent investments. As always, if folks need assistance with job training and connecting to a career opportunity, we can always be of service here at 4058 Minnesota Avenue, DOES.
Thank you so much, Director Hughes. It's always a pleasure to see you as well.
It is.
We're going to wrap this portion up with our final question from one of our individuals on the chat, Mr. David Ratliff. The floor is yours. So if we can unmute David so he can bring us home, that would be great.
So first of all, I want to say thank you, Wendell, for facilitating this Ward 7 DIMS. It's much appreciated, and it's time well spent. I want to say thank you to the executive office of the mayor, the council member. Again, this is just goodness. So I want to focus on economic development. John, since you're on the phone, as you know, MHCDL is our oldest and largest community development corporation in the District of Columbia. We've served every mayor since home rule, Walter Washington to Muriel Bowser. But I want to talk about, I think, some of the keys to making a lot of this work. And today we probably can't synthesize some outcomes, but we can talk about them and keep them on your radar, and hopefully have a follow-on summit to focus on them. So if you can briefly, you can cherry pick them, but I want to talk about Skyland development, what we're doing there. We know Councilmember Gray ushered in legislation to put about $23 million in the bucket to focus on restaurants, sit-down restaurants, retail, grocery stores on our end. The next project is a 2300 block, and I'm going to work my way from south to north, which is the 2300 block of Pennsylvania Avenue is kind of wrought with a few challenges. We started economic development there in 2008. We ushered in some legislation under Marion Barry, but we didn't quite get there. We got the grades done, but we didn't kind of move down the corridor. DSLB, DMPED, small area plan is kind of moving forward, but we think we're going to need a lot more commitment and resources. Carver 2000, another stuck project, as you know, on East Capitol and Benning Road. That land is a block by a block, sits behind Benco Shopping Center. I think we need to focus on that. Fletcher Johnson, as you know, been doing a yeoman's job of pulling that project together with the team. I think there needs to be just kind of a summit that we focus on all of these projects. Hill East, as you know, which is in Ward 7. Ward 7 may expand more. There's two projects that are probably going to kick off, Bundle 1 and Bundle 2. Again, how does all this kind of work together in making Ward 7 a better place? Capitol View, another stuck project. The council member, the executive office of the mayor, DC Housing Authority, everyone has their hands at the grist mill, but Walmart dropped out. We've been seeing a plot of land there for quite some time. It's overdue for development right next to a metro station. I think that should be some focus. I need to go back a little bit to Northeast Heights. As you know, both sides of the street, you know, one side, another side, Safeway has gave a commitment to stay there maybe a little bit longer, but we need to focus on what that development looks like. A lot of good things are happening with DGS and the streetcar. So all of these tie into our small business plan. You know, our housing, as you say, housing is a passion for you. It's a passion for us. Workforce, we talked about Unique and what she's doing at DOES. But I think it's time to kind of sit down as a community with DMPED and the council member and executive office, the mayor, and say, okay, got all these things going. Let's put some timelines behind it and see how all this comes together. And I just wondered if you were open to it. You don't have to answer now or today. You know, you may need to regroup with your team. But I think that's something that the community needs to see, because we see it in pieces where you see it as a whole product of moving Ward 7, Ward 8, east of the river forward. So I just wondered, maybe you're maybe open to that. Or you may want to pick a project, you know, in a short time that we have, just to talk about one of them that's, you know, pressing for you.
I was just saying, David, you're making my job much more harder.
I was about to say, that's actually a great suggestion, and I know who's going to help me pull it together back at the office. Most of you know Wendell and I work together, but so there is, and I love how you laid that all out. Actually, it's great. I see Director Whitfield on the line. I was with her as we toured our all-night sites last night. So we were actually at Northeast Heights. We were in Deanwood, and we were on Pennsylvania Avenue at Penn Branch and at 26th and Penn. So we made, I think, 4 stops in Ward 7 just last night. And I will say there is a lot going on. You mentioned, I'll pick one from what you mentioned, which is the Food Access Fund. Councilmember Gray was a really strong supporter of the mayor's on this one to make sure that we continue to create food access points. What the heck is a food access point? So that could be anything. It could be a grocery store, a supermarket. It could be a place that we just bake or make goods. It could be a ghost kitchen with so much reliance on delivery these days. Could be a small market. Or it could be a sit-down restaurant or a fast casual restaurant. So we're really open to what the community suggests to us or presents to us. So we did one round, and we're kind of caught in this, a little bit of this limbo where we're closing out our fiscal year. So we're going to try to make some awards on that first round. But the good news is anything that we don't allocate in the first round, we'll have for the second round. In the second round, we're not going to wait too long for that. We're looking at launching that in November. So for those who applied, they'll have the opportunity to apply again, and there will be some awards from that first round as well. So, DEMPED has really three roles. It's got to create jobs, build affordable housing, and make sure that our tax base continues to grow so we can continue to invest in all the great programs and assets that the district has. And so I think you're right that we should probably sit down, really hone in on kind of everything that's going on in Ward 7 and really get kind of a status update on it and really hear where you think we need to focus. But there's also some places that we're going to need your support. So you mentioned Capital Gateway. It's in a precarious position, but I think we can make some progress soon because Mayor Bowser and Councilmember Gray worked together on that food access fund that could give us an opportunity that we haven't had in the last few years to really make an investment at that site to get that retail pad activated and really deliver something for the community to get that project kicked off. So why don't we come back to kind of the other ones that you raised when we get together again.
Well, thank you so much, Deputy Mayor. I appreciate members of your team for taking time to join us this morning for our Ward 7 Dams monthly meeting. We wanted to get the mayor, but with any great group, champions adjust. We had technical difficulties earlier during the meeting, but I have the best team.
Wendell,
Yeah.
Excuse me, Mr. Chair. We just admitted some, I think the mayor.
Yes, we did. Yes.
The mayor's on.
Yes. Wendell.
Well, I spoke too soon. Madam Mayor, you have impeccable timing. We were just concluding up our meetings, but you're more than welcome to say hello. But before you say hello, I was in the middle of thanking you and your administration for all the great work that you guys are doing across the city. I was trying to think of an introduction to, I was trying to think of an opening to introduce a person that everyone knows in the city. And typically when folks come to our meetings, I always share a brief story. So you're on the call, and I think this would be the best time to share the brief story on how maybe 7 years ago, I was running for DC Council at large. And I think you just won the Democratic, no, it was before you won the Democratic primary. And I said, I was in Anacostia, I was campaigning for an at-large seat, and I ran into someone who supported you. And they were like, are you gonna support the mayor or Muriel Bowser, who's running for mayor? And I was like, I don't know her. She's from Uptown, from Ward 7. And that person was like, okay. So moving forward, you won the primary and you were about to be our new mayor. And I saw you again, and I was collecting signatures, and someone said, no, that's the same young man who didn't support us when, I wanted to get his support. And our model, we only support those who support us. And but reluctantly, you signed my clipboard to get my name on the ballot. So transition, you won. And then you saw I was in the bullpen, and I just started working for you. And it was just you and I in the bullpen. You looked at me, I looked at you, and you said, "You work for me?" And I was like, "Oh man, Wendell, think fast, think fast." And I was like, "I work for you." And at that moment, you really could have let me go, but instead, you kept me. You saw something in me that I didn't see in myself at that time. And I'm really appreciative of how much you have poured into me. I don't think you get enough credit for the job that you do as it relates to Native young folks from the city and the many opportunities that you give us. So as a token of my appreciation, I got you flowers on behalf of the Ward 7 Dams, right? So I know where you work at. So you'll have these on your desk on Monday. and the floor is yours.
Mute. Uh, well, thank you for that story. I remember it well. I think you left out some things, but I always want to help people who want to run and are about something and are about the city. That's what our whole process is about. And I know that's what the Ward 7 Dems are about. We have a lot of voter education and outreach to do to make sure that every resident of the district is engaged in the process. And this process coming up will be no different. We also, as Democrats, have a responsibility to focus on our democratic principles. And we shouldn't rest on our laurels because we know that we're so many like-minded people in this city. We always have to talk about our values, promote our values, and make sure that our policies reflect our values. So I'm very proud of the work that we've been able to do together these last 7 years. I'm very proud and grateful to residents for what you have sacrificed so that we could beat this virus and get DC back open. And DC is back open. And so we're looking forward to seeing each other in person soon at one of your general body meetings. And I'm looking forward to understanding completely your platform and how we can make sure that's reflected in the agenda for all of DC government. And Mr. Chairman, I want to thank you because we have in fact, I'm also very proud that we've made a point to make sure our government looks like the city and reflects all 8 wards of the city in the people who we hire at every level, but also in the people who serve on our boards and commissions. And we have a huge number of opportunities for both actually now. So people who are interested in coming on a very energetic team and working super hard for the people of DC, please make sure you're always looking for our openings for our boards and commissions and to join us in the DC government team. So I know my team has been able to be on and answer a lot of questions and we look forward to seeing you soon in person.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I think that is it. Thanks again. I appreciate the mayor for popping in on us as well as members of her dynamic team for joining us and answering some of the questions that we had. We look forward to getting the mayor on our calendar soon as possible. But, you know, we do have a Lorraine Whitlock dinner coming up in April. And, you know, I think that would be great to try to work with her scheduling team to get her on the agenda for that as well. So with that, you guys, when I say you guys, district government folks are more than welcome to, are more than, or have the ability to jump off the call. We're going to transition into the next agenda item, which is community announcements, or you can stick around and kick it with us for the next 5 minutes or so until the meeting is adjourned.
Thank you, everybody. Thanks for having us.
Thank you, guys. Take care. Enjoy the rest of your weekend. So at this portion of the meeting, we're going to open the floor to any community announcements. Okay. Not seeing.
It's a hand.
Oh, I see Ebony. Hey, Miss Ebony, the floor is yours.
Good morning, afternoon. I think it's 11:59. Ward 7 Dems. I just wanted to make an announcement. I don't think any of the board members from the Ed Council are on, but the next Ward 7 Education Council meeting is it's always the first Thursday of the month. I believe that is October 7th at 6:30. They're going to be talking about safe passage and some on governance. So there are 2 pieces of legislation in front of the council currently. One actually started with the State Board of Education and work that the Office of Student Advocate did around safe passage. And the other is actually a move around around governance. So moving OSSI to be under the State Board of Education. We want to make sure residents are aware of the different legislative things on the calendar in regards to education. Both of those hearings are in October. If you would like to join, I will put the Ward 7 Ed Council's email address in the chat, so you can, make sure you're getting their emails and be engaged around that. Of course, Ward 7 Democrats are the types of people who tend to engage around legislation. So this seems like the perfect audience for that. Second, as people know, school reopening is a continued conversation. This past Wednesday, I testified along with a lot of other people around school reopening. The record is still open. So if you do want to weigh in on that conversation, I think it's important. Can people continue to weigh in? Please do so. I'm happy to put, I guess we're wrapping up, but I'll email and you can actually send those to the committee of the whole. That's who holds that. And then this coming Wednesday, the 28th, there is a hearing on facilities specifically. So for those people who are on social media, you've probably seen some terrible pictures of everything that's happening with schools. Those questions and concerns go to DGS. That is being hosted by our Councilmember White in conjunction with Chairman Mendelson on the committee of the whole. You can actually still sign up to testify at that hearing. So just want to make sure people are aware of some of the things coming up as far as education is concerned. And I'm always happy and available to, answer the questions I can and be helpful in other ways.
Great. Thank you so much, Ebony. I see that Michael Haviland has his hand raised. If we can unmute Mike. Oh, and Mike, congratulations. He just proposed his fiance.
Thanks so much.
He just proposed his girlfriend.
Yeah, she's now my fiance.
Oh.
Thanks a lot. It's exciting stuff. I would have made it to Art all night last night, but we were celebrating with her family. So, but I just wanted to mention DDOT has not announced the exact date yet, but coming up this fall, the first of two final design meetings for the streetcar extension to Benning Road Metro Station will be happening. The last day of fall is December 20th, so presumably it'll be sometime between now and December 20th, but they haven't announced the exact date. But for people who pay attention to that issue and want to provide feedback to DDOT, keep your eyes and ears open for a meeting in the next month or two to go over the details of the final design. Just wanted to give people a heads up so they had that on their radar. Thanks.
Thank you so much. And I think we're going to take one final question. I'm sorry, one final announcement from Tony Duggar. Mr. Duggar, the floor is all yours. Tony? Okay. Well, guys, I appreciate folks for spending their Saturday morning with us, the Ward 7 Dems. I have nothing else to add. And at this point in time, the meeting is adjourned, and I will see you guys next Saturday, same place, same time.
Thanks.
Thanks, guys. Take care.
Thank you.